Welcome, everybody. This is Jeff Baller with the Apartment Owners Association, and it is great to have you with us today. We are talking about Prop 33. It's on the ballot, which is coming up. Some of you may have voted already, but we're going to cover this issue. And yeah, before we get into that, AOA's been around for over 40 years. Thank you to so many of you who have been faithful AOA members through the years, and many of you have discovered the AOA tenant screening. And with things the way that they are, and with regulations the way that they are, it's so important to get the right renters into your units. And we have so many different tools around that. There's an income verification by a third party. Just with the way that the instant criminal reports have really been just losing the power that they once had, or kind of like they don't show as much as they used to. And so we have the live investigator search, which kind of gets around all of that. It's all legal, that what they're doing legally, it's not a legal thing, but they've just made it harder to find information. And so it's at a point now where a bot can't find it. It takes a live person. So we have live people fetching that information. There are so many different indexes, you wouldn't believe it. And an instant criminal report does not even include a civil misconduct search, which is crazy, but that's the truth. And so that's why we have the live investigator search. Really, really recommend using that. There are so many counties in California now that have an issue with that. So just want to let you know about that. And then we do have the property management software. If you do get into a lawsuit, you're going to have to, if it's non-payment, you're going to need to produce a tenant ledger. If it's some other thing, then maybe you need to produce the communications. And there's an area where you can document all that and just print out a report. Makes things a whole lot easier for everybody when you're coming up with all of that. So just want you to be aware of those things. First month's free on the property management software. So we do have a live stream. We had one last night. Check it out. It's on our YouTube channel, AOA USA, and that was about some of the new ADU law. And so that's kind of like jaw-dropping what they're allowing you to do. And we want you to maximize your return on investment on the properties that you already have. And also, while you're doing that, you're also you're providing more housing, which is solving the housing crisis. So that's awesome. Take a look at that one. We did it at the Santa Monica Playhouse, and it was definitely a whole lot of fun. So watch that one. And then we have another live stream coming up tomorrow about just tricks and delay tactics on the evictions. And then coming in November, the 19th in Hawthorne and the 20th in San Diego, we're going to have a major tenant screening update. San Diego, it'll be with an attorney that represents landlords when it comes to the litigation where they've been sued regarding how they're screening their tenants. And literally, you miss one form and it could literally cost you 10 grand. So that is something, if you want to see that in person, you can. It's going to be at the Marina Village, which is on the wharf there. Got the Duck House Cafe, a great place to eat. So if you want to head down there for that one, you can. And then right after that one, we have one that's specific to San Diego tenant protection ordinance. And so that's happening in San Diego. Got Hawthorne, got San Diego, Santa Monica yesterday. And anyway, so just a few of those things that are coming up. And if you're not getting that information, just check your spam or ask us just resubscribe to everything and you'll be getting that again. So today we're covering Prop 33. And so we have SNS Law Group that's coming on to do this for us, and it's great timing. They cover really their high quality legal services. They're going to kind of walk you through everything. And you probably are not going to feel stranded or alone with them. And they cover the landlord tenant issues, business, corporate, real estate law all across California. And anyway, just they have great reviews, so check them out. And our speaker today is a USC and UCLA graduate. He graduated with a JD from Gould School of Law. He specializes in breach of contract, fiduciary duty, partnership shareholder disputes, unfair business practices, and trade secret misappropriation. And they they do lots of evictions. And so he's a strong legal and financial background, and it equips him to litigate complex real estate, financial, and business cases, and to counsel clients on intricate business transactions. So it's really a pleasure to have you back on. Edrin, let's give him
Thank you so much,
a
Jeff.
warm welcome here. Thank you, Edrin.
You always make me blush with the gracious words at first. Thanks for having me on. We're only a handful away, days away from election day, national elections, local elections, statewide elections, and one of the, if not, I say one of the largest, most important bills on the ballot is Prop 33. And Prop 33, if it passes, is going to have a wide-ranging impact on housing, on tenant rights, on landlord rights, on money in your viewers' pockets at the end of the day. You already gave a breakdown of what my office focuses on. Generally, we do a ton of landlord tenant law. A big subset of that are eviction actions. We also do landlord compliance. You mentioned the Investigative Reporting Act. We've seen many lawsuits coming down the pipeline in landlords not complying with their obligations, or just not being aware of their obligations when they're pulling consumer reports like background checks and eviction checks and all of that. So your viewers, I'm sure, are going to learn a lot with the presentation coming up in the next couple of weeks. But today we're here to talk about Proposition 33. It's on the ballot on November 5th. I'm sure a lot of your viewers have they're already aware of, the stakes on this, and, hopefully they've already done early voting on it. But today I'm going to cover the Costa-Hawkins Act of 1995, which is the main target of Proposition 33. What would happen in terms of impact if Prop 33, God forbid, ever passed. And also a parallel bill, Proposition 34. That's also on the ballot on November 5th. So Proposition 33 really starts off about in 1995. In 1995, a bunch of municipalities were starting to enact tougher and tougher rent control measures. And at that stage, the state of California was still reasonable. The legislature was still reasonable. So they saw what was happening with Santa Monica and Los Angeles and Culver City. They were, enacting these crazy rent control measures. So the legislature stepped in 1995, and they basically dictated to the local municipalities what they could and could not do with respect to rent control. And specifically what it did, the state came out and said, look, municipalities, you guys can impose rent control on only certain types of rental properties. They specifically excluded single-family properties. They also excluded most condominiums, not all condominiums. I always get clients who come to me and they have a condo and they say, it's not rent controlled. It's not rent controlled. Well, sometimes it is. Even though there's Costa-Hawkins, sometimes the condominiums are actually subject to local rent stabilization ordinances. That happens when the condominium used to be an apartment complex and it was converted to individual units. In that case, if the apartment complex was subject to an RSO, the RSO tag would continue to follow the condominium conversion. And Costa-Hawkins also said local municipalities can't regulate new constructions, new constructed buildings. And the reason for that is that the state saw, if these local municipalities impose really tough rent control measures, it would actually cause divestment from building new properties and new homes for people and new rental properties. And they said, look, you guys can do some things, but you can't do everything. And one of the last restrictions on local municipalities, it prevents local cities from dictating to landlords what they can do when a tenant vacates a property, even if it's a rent controlled property. So today, if a tenant is evicted by my office or by another office or by a landlord, or if the tenant even voluntarily leaves, landlords are allowed to increase their rents to market rents or whatever rents they want. If Proposition 33 passes, the items that I just mentioned, they're gonna go away, unfortunately. So a little background on Proposition 33. This is actually the third time it's come up on the ballot. It came up, I believe, back in 2018 or 2019, and again back in 2020. It's lost by very large margins in the past. The voters have looked at it and say, we don't want it. It's going to have a disastrous impact on rental incomes. It's actually going to cause a shortfall of rental housing for tenants. It's going to, plummet property tax revenues that are used for school systems, and other governmental actions and things like that. It's strange because it's being promoted by the Age Foundation, which, you look at it and said, what the heck does the Age Foundation have to do with landlord tenant law? And we're still trying to figure that out. Apparently the head of the Age Foundation has a large interest in passing this measure. This is the third time the Age Foundation has basically thrown a ton of money behind the measure. And the focus is to repeal the Costa-Hawkins Act. And the impacts, obviously, is going to repeal Costa-Hawkins and all the restrictions Costa-Hawkins imposed on local municipalities. There's 4 impacts specifically. It's going to allow cities to start regulating single-family homes. Right now, when people own single-family homes, they can increase rents to whatever they like. There's no RSO, even though there might be a just cause eviction control on those properties now. For instance, in the city of Los Angeles, landlords are still allowed to increase rents to whatever amount they want. If Prop 33 passes, the city of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, Culver City, they can pass local ordinances that says, hey, the RSO now applies to single family houses. So now you're limited to only increasing rent by 3% annually or 4% annually. The same thing would apply to condominiums. And they would also be able to control new constructions. Right now, Costa-Hawkins prevents local municipalities from regulating any constructions built after 1995. If Prop 33 passes, the city of Los Angeles can now come in and say, even if you build a new building, we're going to tell you exactly how much you can increase the rent. And that's not going to be more than 3 or 4%. I think the biggest aspect of this, although those measures are draconian in and of themselves, is the vacancy decontrol, is what I mentioned a second ago. If Prop 33 passes, local cities would be able to come in and say, even if you evict the tenant for cause, failure to pay rent, breach of a covenant, whatever it may be, if you're charging that tenant $1,000 a month and that person's evicted, or even if they voluntarily leave, we're not going to allow you to charge the next person more than $1,000 or whatever, minuscule allowable rent increase they're allowing for that particular year. And you can imagine what that's going to do. Let me talk to you about, the negative ramifications of that. First, it's going to absolutely result in lower property tax revenues to the local municipalities, because once this thing passes, you're going to automatically see about a 30 to 35% drop in property values. And everyone says there's no way it's going to pass. There's no way it's going to pass. Well, a similar bill actually passed in 2019 in the state of New York, and they saw an immediate 30% drop in property values. Landlords in New York have actually been protesting. They don't even put their properties on the rental market because they don't want to be regulated by the restrictions. It's actually going to result in less affordable housing, not more affordable housing, because if the municipalities can control new constructions, builders and developers have no incentive to build properties. And really the issue in terms of the housing crisis is a lack of supply. We need to build more houses. And if local municipalities can dictate how much you can charge in rent or regulate new constructions, developers are not going to build properties any longer. And finally, if they're able to control the amount you could charge in rent, obviously you're going to see a huge decrease in property values across the state. Proposition 34. So, well, let me wrap up on Prop 33. You know, obviously Jeff's position, my position, the apartment association's position, and nearly every single one of my landlord clients, you know, it's a complete no on the proposition. It's only going to make things worse, and it's just another situation where you have the long arm of the government dictating what you can do. It's not going to be helpful, and in fact, it's going to be very unhelpful to both landlords and tenants up and down the state of California. A lot of people are actually unaware of Prop 34, which is somewhat of a parallel bill. Prop 34 is also on the ballot for November 5th. And what it seeks to enact is to prevent certain healthcare providers from utilizing funds other than on patient care. What it actually requires is that, you know, places like the AIDS Foundation and other healthcare providers use about 98% of their revenue and their donations on actual patient care. And the reason for that is the AIDS Foundation has taken a lot of money from their donations and their revenue, and instead of devoting it to patient care, they're using it to promote Prop 33 and all of these other propositions. So a vote on yes on Proposition 34 will make sure that that money reaches its end goal, and that's to promote healthcare at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it's no on Prop 33, yes on Prop 34. And I'm very hopeful, especially based off of the polling numbers, that it's moving in the right direction. But, you know, don't be fooled. You guys have to get out. You have to vote because if this thing passes, it's going to be a disaster up and down the state of California. That's pretty much the sum of it, the short of it, the long of it. I'm hopeful, you know, we're going to get some good news in a couple of days, Jeff. You're muted, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. We'll take some questions. If you're watching on AOAUSA.com, there is the little bubble at the bottom right side of the screen, and you can type a question in there and they'll get that over to me if you type it into YouTube or Facebook. And I believe we're on X now, I believe. And so kind of branching out a little bit so you could find us in all these different spots. But yeah, so write in the question and we'll take it. You know, it's really been amazing, Edrin. Like this time compared to last time, our member engagement's been just insane. I mean, we thought we printed enough lawn signs when we printed, I think we printed like 50,000, and we thought that would be enough, but people kept asking for them, so we printed, you know, more and more and more, and I think now it's election time and we're down. I think we have about 100 or less that are here now. But every day members are calling in and we're sending out, you know, 5, 10, 2 here and there. People are coming by picking up 50. And so it's just been really neat. We have people that put up banners. I should have shared some pictures. I don't have it in my computer, but just owners that have buildings or properties that are strategically located. We got one, the property's right below the Hollywood sign. We got, so that's kind of fun. Right on Sepulveda. There's 20 locations in LA that have 100,000 cars pass by in a day. There's 20 of them. And anyway, we have a banner up in one of those places on Sepulveda by the airport. I've seen them up on overpasses, and I know that people take those down after it's all done. But anyway, it's been really neat to see that engagement. People really donating and helping us fund it. We've done a billboard. We've done a bunch of digital billboards, and all that with PAC funding, Political Action Committee funding. So just a huge thanks. Some of you that are watching, I know you've given very generously, and it's allowed us to do so much more than we ever were able to do before. And yeah, like you were saying, the most recent poll shows us at, I believe, 52% and the no's at 42. No, I think maybe it's 52 and 44. Or, oh, I can't. All of a sudden, I
I
don't
think it's pretty
remember.
much right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right around there. But anyway, so the investment, all the associations, um, California Association of Realtors, there's so many different groups that have pitched in, and it's just great to see it. And then could you stop sharing your screen? I don't know if that'll help us get the two of us there or not, but here we go. And then, all right, so now we have a few questions. I thought if I shared a little bit, then
Sure.
it'd give them time to get the questions in here. In case Prop 33 passes, can it be repealed? Is the question.
Well, I mean, I assume that it can, or it could get replaced by enactment of a different law, but I wouldn't bet on it. You know, once this thing is gone, it's going to be very hard to get the voters to come back out and enact a new version of Costa-Hawkins that restricts the municipalities. And, you know, I want to be clear, you know, the repealment of Costa-Hawkins doesn't automatically result in tighter rent control measures. What it does is that it unhandcuffs the cities to do what they want.
Mhm.
And you've seen what the cities have done, even with Costa-Hawkins there in place right now. I mean, every single day, you know, I get a news alert on another ordinance, on another ordinance, on another ordinance, and that's in the face of Costa-Hawkins that's already handcuffing the cities. So I wouldn't bet on it. You know, it's very hard to change laws that are on the books.
Right. I've explained to people, it's not like a new law. It's something that's removing a law that we have in place. So like if it's a new law, then you can litigate against it, but you can't litigate against air.
Exactly.
So that's kind of where we're at with that one. And then it comes down to litigating, just trench warfare, litigating on things that are unreasonable, that get passed by local municipalities. And so this is not just an LA deal. This is the whole state, and up and down the state, there are city councils that are, very inclined to putting restrictions on, and they think rent control is the answer, and they just don't realize how detrimental it is for renters. I don't hear it often enough of how renters options are going to go way down. When people sell and when people withhold their units, it's their choices go way down. It becomes harder. And then when you can't charge market rate, then you no longer do a renovation between tenants. And so then when you're not doing a renovation and you're squeezed and you're a private investor, you're not an institutional stock market investor, then, like quality of life for the renter goes down. And so I know that maybe there'll be some renters that watch this video too. And really, I hope you can understand. Or for those of you that are owners and you want to, how do you frame this? How do you share this with someone who's not an apartment owner? Those are the big things. Like if you can't maintain your building, what happens? Like crime happens. If you have everything nice and well maintained and you have flowers and you keep all the locks operational, then that's a totally different story than a building that hasn't been taken care of. And yeah, so all right. And Stella, she asked if you're going to talk about Prop 34, and so you did talk about it.
I did, yeah. It's out there to make sure that the healthcare providers are using their funds towards patient care. You know, it requires them to devote about 98% towards patient care, where right now they're actually diverting a lot of those funds and sending it elsewhere. So that's the main focus of that.
Right. Okay. And then here we go on YouTube. What is the best arguments for tenants to let them know? Okay, so I kind of just shared that. Really, their quality of life and their options, and just the crime could go up, and it will go up. And so those are the main things that I see. And if they ever want to, I mean, hopefully they own a property someday. If they end up owning a single family home, and lots of times you own a condo first, and when you graduate to something else, you you would want to rent that out, but that'll be gone.
It'll be gone.
And one thing, like you did say that the real estate values will go down, and that sounds good, but in New York City, actually, it was just the rentals that went down. The other property values did increase 23% in the last 5 years. So it's not going to make homes any cheaper. It's going to just make apartment buildings, that's where the value will be lost. And rightfully so, there's zero upside. If you can't renovate and get back to market rate, there's zero upside. So naturally those prices are going to fall. So I hope that helps. Like we did send out an email that had some of those talking points in it. There's like 8 of them. And then also one other one that I want to say is, gosh, did you see that, Edrin, did you see the Newsweek article about Argentina removing rent control?
Yeah.
So it's just amazing. They removed rent control, they deregulated, and their supply went up 195%.
It incentivizes people to build at the end of the day.
Right.
It's
And
even affordable housing,
right. And to have the security to to actually put your unit on the market, because there's people that are holding them out. Let me put this on DND here. Okay. All right, got that going. All right. Okay. The fact that Prop 33 from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation features Kamala Harris and her voice, does this mean that Democrats actually support this measure? I'll say just Biden they are they would like rent control on a national level, capping rents at 5%. So that is a feature of the platform that not every Democrat agrees with. And but really when they stuck Kamala in there, I don't think she authorized that.
He didn't.
And so that is actually pretty problematic. And I don't know if there's going to be litigation around that or not. But anyway.
Yeah, she actually came out and said, I didn't authorize it. And I think Governor Newsom, and just kind of lets you know how big of a disaster this proposition is. Governor Newsom, who's, as liberal as they come, I think he's come out against the proposition himself as well.
Right. Yeah, and even the LA Times. So even very liberal sources are against it, and part of it is just so there's a lot of reasons for that. And anyway, let's see. If Prop 33 passes, would it become effective, and how would cities enforce it? How would yearly allowable rent increases be calculated, or is it discretionary and totally up to each city or county?
Yeah, it's up to the local municipalities. So again, what it does, it removes the restrictions. Right now, Costa-Hawkins restricts local municipalities from, regulating single family properties, condominiums, new constructions. Prop 33 would remove those restrictions, and then the cities would be open to enact local ordinances that would regulate single family houses and condominiums and new constructions and vacancy decontrols and all of that. So we don't know how long it's going to take the cities to actually get going on it. I assume they'll do it if Prop 33 does, God forbid, pass. They'll do it really, really, really quickly. They probably already have draft ordinances drafted and ready to go. I don't know how quickly they'll get it off, but they've been, itching for this for a long time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a good question. Voting against 33, but for 34 seems inconsistent. No to increased regulation for housing, but yes to increased regulation for healthcare. Please help me explain the difference to neighbors and tenants.
I can see where maybe on the face of the two bills or the two propositions, it may look inconsistent. But really what Prop 34 requires is for the healthcare providers to use their proceeds on their actual mission, which is patient care. Right now, they can take in billions of dollars and use it on whatever they want, like rent control. It has nothing to do with patient care. Whereas Prop 33 is allowing the cities not to restrict properties further than they already are allowed to do so. So I'm not sure if it's exactly inconsistent. I think there's two different aims there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a libertarian, you would probably vote no and no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because that law could be used some other time in a way that you wouldn't want it to be used, but we're just looking at the, millions and millions, 50 million that he spent this time around, and we're not even talking about the money he had to spend to get the signatures that were required to repeal Costa-Hawkins. So this is millions and millions that could have been used to help people, and to divert it that way. And so, yeah, Bruce is asking, well, who authored this thing? And again, it's the AIDS Foundation, Weinstein. Is it Weinstein or Stein?
I think
Weinstein,
it's
right?
Weinstein.
Yeah, so he authored it, and this is his third time around, as we mentioned on the front end. If you came in late too, you can always just watch this again. Go to YouTube and AOA USA. I believe it's on X today, and it's on our Facebook page. And yeah, so anyway, you can get it just about anywhere now. And so I hope those things help you guys. And yeah, any parting thoughts there, Edrin?
I think it's a clear no, and hopefully it won't ever come back up. It was
Seriously.
because look, even with the 1995 Costa-Hawkins Act on the books, the municipalities are still passing things day in and day out with the just cause ordinance. Additional protections for tenants in the local municipal codes. You don't want to arm them with even more power.
Mhm.
To run amok. So, I think preserving the status quo and allowing the municipalities to operate within the confines and the restrictions of the 1995 Act makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for sharing, and until next time, I guess.
Until
And
next time, looking forward to it, Jeff. I'll probably send you a text message or give you a call right as the exit polls come out on
right,
November
we'll see.
5th.
We'll see. And hopefully it doesn't take weeks to figure it out, but California usually takes a little bit of time. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
but they're pretty good with gauging it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully, we'll know that evening. But looking forward to seeing how this thing is going to unravel.
All right. And some of you will see you tomorrow too. Okay. Take care,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, Jeff. Take care.
Okay, bye.